Hey, we're back, everybody. Another episode of the Duncan Show. Dan, how are you feeling today?
I'm pumped. I'm excited. Uh, Big game last night that I witnessed. Iowa and LSU. I watched that game. Today I'm feeling really good, energized, just ready to, talk about all these matchups with you.
Yeah, so like Dan said, we're going to get into the women's Final Four going on and then the men's Final Four. But first, before we get into that, Dan, what's on your feet today, man?
All right, let me get right to that. Been a while since I've done this.
Okay, there we go.
OG.
You're matching, everything's matching right now, as
It's
always.
all matching. Hey, it's a nightcapper. Come on.
It's a
It's our
nightcap. That's
version.
right. That's right. But yeah, so getting into the episode, we got as advertised competition last night in the Elite Eight matchups. Um, Iowa and LSU, and then UConn and USC. Um, Dan, I know I wasn't able to watch that first game. I'd seen highlights, but you were ecstatic texting me all game. Just
Yeah,
and when I went and I saw, all the highlights, I realized just what a game, dude. What a game and what a player Caitlin Clark is in Iowa and LSU. But
yeah.
for that game, yeah, you want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, I will. I'll talk about that game. So it was big game, big hype up, national championship rematch from last year. Iowa and LSU going up in the Elite Eight this time. And it just the build up, the hype up, between Reese and Clark, last year, the trash talking, which, got into it a little bit. The media was getting into speculations of the two of them hating each other.
Right.
And so it was just a matchup built for the hype. And it was a battle. It was tied at 45 at halftime. Clark had 19 at the half, Reese with 13, and she had 8 assists, almost a double double at the half, tied at 45. And then all of a sudden it just went lights out for Clark, lights out for her teammates, Marshall and Martin. They were all contributing, and it was just one heck of a game to watch. And Clark ended up getting her 40 points. Reese had a double double, but it was an incredible game to watch. One of the best games of this tournament. We were waiting for the matchup, and I knew it was going to happen again. I had a feeling it would, and it lived up to the hype.
Like you said, dude, it was, the two paths had to cross at some point, and it felt like it was worthy of a Final Four or a championship matchup. But the Elite Eight, and we got what we wanted. Two, two teams that are, like you said, talking about the drama that went into the game. If you're looking at it from a pure drama perspective, as as theatrical as sports are, you got a coach who's getting grilled by the media with story after story.
Right?
You have um, two or three of the big names on LSU who are, well known in college basketball, and then you got Caitlin Clark in Iowa, and so, and all the hype that's been building around her, throughout her final season at Iowa. It's like,
Yeah,
talk about showing up when it matters. Talk about being clutch. I went back, so she hasn't had under 20 since last season. She scored over 20 in every game
yeah.
since then. And it's
Every
like,
single game.
right.
It's
So,
double digits every single game, and she's putting up the numbers. And the logo three is her specialty. She loves that logo three.
right. That's the thing. It's like, there's so many as a fan watching, and as you're watching basketball and stuff and you're seeing, some questionable shots being thrown up from a fan perspective, for the most part, we judge these shots. We're like, oh, why did so and so take that shot? That was a bad shot, blah blah blah. But with Caitlin, you can't judge any shot she takes
No,
because she's proven time and time again it's probably going to go in. And so that type of player is just, you don't come across that type of player. And um so yeah, like you said, they pushed ahead in the second half. And yeah, that was great to see. Obviously LSU got them last time. And so talk about getting revenge, um, and taking, learning from last year, building off of it, and then not making the same mistakes. So amazing game.
yeah, and Rebecca Lobo last night, who was doing the commentating, I think there was a quote from Caitlin. It wasn't a revenge game for her. It was making a statement and proving that she's the greatest player and has risen these ratings for women's basketball. I remember that quote from last night.
Yeah. And thinking of the potential, obviously she declared for the WNBA draft. Um, I would expect a lot of new fans to the WNBA. And that also is because of teams like UConn and USC, who we'll get into next. But the sport's in great hands right now. There's a lot of star power, including Juju Watkins, Paige Beckers, among
Yep.
others. So, um, yeah, let's talk about that game. How about that?
Yeah, let's talk about that game. So I watched, let's see, the first half. I mostly watched the second half of that game, but
Mhm.
it was a battle. Becker's, she did her thing, and UConn was just Edwards and Becker's, and it was just one of those elite showdown type games where you had two other top 10 elite players going up against each other, and Watkins from USC, who's going to be a star in the
Mhm.
coming years. So it was a good fight. It was a good battle. UConn ended up winning that game and advancing. So I mean, I like the matchup. I like seeing Becker's what she had to overcome with
Right.
being a freshman and then having 2 injury years. And a lot of her stock and a lot of her talent was dwindling down because of the injuries, but she rebounded, fought through adversity, and came back, and she's just been unstoppable ever since.
Yeah, dude. Especially just considering how much hype around her as like the number one player in the country coming in. Um, you can only root for her. And so obviously there's two other games that went down in the Elite Eight, with NC State advancing and then
Yep.
um South
South Carolina.
Carolina. And so um, we're going into, or not only do we have two teams from the men's and women's, both in the Final Four. Um, on the women's side, we potentially could be getting a undefeated team in the championship against Caitlin Clark. And I think
Yeah,
I don't mean to speak for you, Dan, but I'm assuming you probably want that matchup, South Carolina versus Iowa.
I do. Yeah,
But
I
bef
want that
yeah,
matchup.
but before that happens, right, now we have Iowa versus UConn, and thinking about how nobody's been able to stop Caitlin. UConn, Dan, they get out in the passing lanes. I think they get double-digit steals on a nightly basis. But um, yeah, LSU, dude, they didn't switch enough on Caitlin, and
Oh,
um, they didn't adjust at all. So It'll be interesting. I think Gino Auriemma is a better coach than Kim Mulkey, um, but yeah, that's gonna be an amazing game, dude. And I know you're super excited for that one.
Yeah, I've been excited ever since last night when it was out there going to be the matchup, and every team that Gino's had, Oriema, it's defensive minded. He loves to every time switch from the perimeter key player
Hmm.
on the paint, on the point guard. He mixes it up a lot. And so, he's a defensive minded coach with great gritty teams. And so you'll see that when he plays matchups against Caitlin. But I mean, she'll at least put up at least 20 to 30. I don't know about 40 if, it comes down to defense.
Right. So yeah, and then on the other side of things, NC State versus the undefeated South Carolina team, Dawn Staley. How many straight years has she not lost? It's crazy. In the regular season at least. It's incredible.
It's
Um,
been like 5, 6 years.
yeah. And so that's the thing. There's so many amazing, just dominant teams, but obviously there's only one winner. And so just a great year for the women's basketball tournament. And yeah, I'm looking forward to these next two games and then the national championship. But yeah, do you have anything else to say about the Final Four?
Those are going to be both two great matchups. I'm going to enjoy watching them. I hope it's Iowa, South Carolina. I'd love to see that matchup. And I'd love to see Caitlin Clark win a national championship before she goes pro. So I'd love to watch, that happen. But I'm excited for those matchups.
Yeah, and another thing, I guess, before moving on, thinking about the transition from college to WNBA and thinking of players on the women's side tending to stay longer in college and what that's done for the game. You have players who are able to develop in comparison to the men's side where it's very common to, leave after your freshman year. And so um, obviously a lot of questions about is the game going to be as watched in the WNBA? Because I know you were telling me how many people tuned into that last night's game, and it's like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
um, what do you think, dude? Do you think the WNBA will be able to, gain popularity and become a, you know, a better organized, I guess, with star power type of league?
Absolutely. And it's all boils down to everyone staying in school for the 4 years and 4 to 3 years of school, having those NIL super max deals, whatever you want to call them. It helps, but they stay in school and they get more players,
Right.
more gritty, powerful players that just commit to going to the WNBA. It's not like the men's side. It's a lot different, and that's what I like about the women's side versus the men's.
Totally, dude. And the competition level, the drama, it's all there. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's risen.
the game's in good hands. I think the media has some work to do as far as the narratives that they set towards the game, but yeah. So should we talk about the men's tournament now?
Yeah, let's talk about the men's.
So yeah, tremendous like this the last few weeks we've had basketball galore. And I know we spent a few days watching games
The
together
mid cave.
during the first few rounds, and it's been a very hectic tournament this year, like it always is. But um after however many games, we're now down to the final four, and
Yeah.
we have an 11 seed, we have a 1 seed, we have another one seed, and then what was the last seed again?
Alabama.
Alabama, the two seed, right? Or three?
Wait a minute. I think they were
Or
they were a 4 seed.
a four seed, my bad.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's as far as making brackets goes and stuff, it was very tough. Um, but it seems like a common trend with this year's tournament is a lot of the big man play, dude. Um,
yeah,
Especially a lot of teams who are so dependent on, say, one player or just living behind the three-point arc. There were a lot of guys who didn't show up in the bright lights on big teams this year, and it ended up costing them the tournament. And so, I know we watched quite a few games where we got to see a lot of action in the paint, and free throws have been such a big deal this tournament with
deal.
a lot of the games, they either go for the most part without any fouls or getting to the line. And then other games where teams tend to dominate, it's, a very high free throw contest. And so that comes with, getting the ball in the paint and, drawing fouls and stuff. And so people like Zach Edey, people like DJ Burns, two big stars. Um, I know we'd watched in Folly Dante and on Colorado. What was his name again?
The Colorado big man.
Lantham.
Yeah, Latham.
Lantham. Um, and then obviously so many other big men too. Clemson had a few. Creighton. Obviously there's more teams, but it's impressive and it's refreshing to see the big man kind of coming back into rotation, especially since the type of prospect that the NBA kind of looks for isn't the prototypical, paint driven big man. And so
Yeah,
um, we get two tremendous bigs going at it in the NC State Purdue game. And then we also have um, UConn versus Alabama. Um,
yeah. Those big guys for Bama.
so
They're
is there a game you'd want to talk about first? Or just
let's
tournament in general?
the one in general that I'd like to talk about is Purdue NC State. That's the one that I would like to talk about the most. And NC State, I'd love to talk about their Cinderella run
Yeah.
to start it off.
Hmm.
So they were 17 and 14 going into the ACC tournament. I told you about this a couple of days. I think it was yesterday actually.
Hmm.
They were 17 and 14 and they won all 5 games on 5 days of the ACC tournament to get into the NCAA tournament with the 11 seed. They played Texas Tech. They beat them. They had a close one against Oakland with Jack Golke,
Bulky.
the transfer from Milwaukee, who upset Kentucky. That was a great matchup there.
Hmm.
Great upset. And
That went to
then
overtime.
it was overtime. And then they ended up beating Marquette in the Sweet 16, a rematch against Duke from the ACC tournament in the Elite Eight. And they beat Duke to go on to the Final Four.
And remember, what was it? The game where they hit the buzzer beater. They were down by three with um a guy at the line with like 4 seconds left, and the guy hadn't
For
missed free
seconds.
throws in so long, and he flunked them both. So
Virginia. It was
yeah,
against
like for one they got it. They survived on a prayer to even live another day, but they've just taken that and run with it. And I know when you think about narratives from previous years, there's two narratives right now that are kind of parallel to past years with obviously Virginia winning the national championship after getting bounced as a 1 seed the previous
Yeah.
year. And then
UMBC.
also, yeah, and then we were also talking about that Oregon State team, dude, who had to win the Pac-12 tournament a few years ago and then win a first four game, I'm pretty sure. And they made
Yeah.
it. Or I don't know if they won a first four, but as like an 11 seed too, they went on that crazy run. Wasn't that it was pretty ugly basketball, um but still thinking of just, history repeating itself in different ways. Um
Yeah.
yeah. So NC State, dude, they're going up against Purdue, who has just dominated for the most
Oh
part.
my God. Yeah, they're unstoppable.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were kind of weary about them considering what happened last year, but the guard plays better, and obviously Edie, who
Yeah.
as much as he is sometimes kind of a foul merchant a little bit, he is dominant.
Double.
And now
Yeah.
we know today that he is also a former baseball player. That video of him on the mound, dude.
He wasn't even getting any oomph on the ball, man. He couldn't even throw a strike.
Oh, dude, it was so funny. Yeah, there's been some unfortunate viral videos of him going around lately. But no, he's amazing. And thinking of just how dominant he is, especially didn't he had a career high the last game, I'm pretty sure.
He had
And
4 points.
yeah, so um, but he's
In
going.
every game, he's had double double, triple double in those categories when he's scoring over 30 points a game.
But he's going up against, it's just a tremendous matchup. He's going up against DJ Burns, who obviously he's
Yeah.
shorter, but nonetheless, he can guard Edie for sure. So, um, that's the matchup to watch, at least from my perspective. It's going to be so fun. I hope to see Burns rough him up a little bit. What do you think?
Yeah, they'll be roughed up. Definitely for sure. And it's going to be one of those bloodbath type battles down low in the paint. Edie's going to do his thing. We all know about the point guards and the guards for NC State. They've had a great run, great tournament, but it's going to be a bloodbath down low. Whoever wins.
Yeah, and also thinking of NC State, man, it's nice that they're back in basketball, just back in the limelight, back in the spotlight as as a team we're celebrating. When you think of the history of them, I know one of the first E60s I watched was about Jim Valvano, and so I've
83.
always, and I know you've watched it too, and you're a big fan of Coach V. So just thinking about keeping, I mean, his story is always going to live, but
Yeah.
just it feels right, and I think I saw a photo that people were visiting the cemetery where he's at, and it looked beautiful. And so
Yeah,
um
that was a great tribute.
yeah, and also you think of, the just the I know we talked about um, the impact of 2020 without an NCAA tournament and
Yeah.
how teams in the NBA weren't able to get the best look at guys, or some guys didn't get the opportunities that they might have to get drafted. And so, obviously, people's draft stocks have improved. People's draft stocks have, not, but basically, what I'm saying is the opportunities that have been presented in the form of NIL, in things like DJ Burns getting looked at as an NFL prospect now. Um,
Oh, yeah. Yep.
just today he had like him and the other DJ on the team had the meet and greet, and they filmed
Burns and
the
Horn.
whole Applebee's, right? And
Yep.
so just thinking of building their persona as athletes, and just using their using their gift, and getting appreciated for it because of things like the NCAA tournament. It's been really great to see, especially Golke, man. Raking
Oh
in
yeah.
he's been raking in the sponsorship deals. And so always great to see guys, who aren't blue blood teams. They're not, always in the spotlight. It's so refreshing to see new faces, new stars, and that's what the NCAA tournament's all about. And so having an
It,
11 seed in the Final Four, we love it.
yeah. Another key factor on that North Carolina State team from 1983. That was a team with Derek Wittenberg, Sidney Lowe, Lorenzo Charles, Cozell McQueen, Terry Gannon, Thurl Bailey, led by the great Jimmy V. Uh, Back then, there were 52 teams that made the NCAA tournament. They got in and they went on a big Cinderella run. They were called the Cardiac Pack. They went up against Houston, five slamma jamma,
Yep.
and one of the greatest game-winning shots of all time, Wittenberg to Charles down low to ice that one.
Yeah, so um we're gonna be rooting for NC State, aren't we?
Yeah,
Yeah. I think I think in Edie, on the flip side of things, though, do you want to talk about UConn, Alabama, real quick?
yeah. I'll talk about them really quick.
Hmm.
So Alabama, they were a four seed, and they ended up beating Charleston in the first round. They beat Grand Canyon in the second round, beat North Carolina, and then had the all football matchup. Alabama Clemson.
Where's Dabo? Where's Saban? Where's Dabo running to mid-court?
That's where you need Deshaun to Hunter Renfro into
Oh
the end
gosh.
zone. But they ended up coming out of nowhere, winning those four matchups to get to the Final Four, and they're going to be playing against the defending champs, UConn Huskies, Dan Hurley, Cam Spencer, Terrence Newton, all of those guys. They're ballers. The defense is one of the best that they run. I mean, all the sets that they run off screen, off isolation, they're just a team that's just unstoppable to beat. And it's going to be tough for Alabama to beat them. It's going to be really tough because they just have so many weapons and they can move the ball up and down the floor and it's just magnific it's incredible and magnificent to watch.
Seriously, dude, the sheer dominance, it's impressive. And um the point differential is just disgusting with each game. And um yeah, it's honestly, from my end, it's been hard to tune into their games because they've been so one-sided. And
Yeah,
all we want is onions. We just want onions, man.
yeah, we want a Bill Rafferty onion
We just
call.
want
That's what.
onions calls. And so um hoping for onions in that matchup, but thinking of Alabama being such a run and gun team, um, being reliant on setting the pace of the game early and teams having to, play to their style. UConn is, they're the tone setters, dude. They pummel you from the start. They jump on you so quickly. And so um this could either be ugly or this could be close. And so I think of, do you remember it was, I think it was the year before Oregon lost to UNC. I remember they went up against Buddy Hield in the Elite. I think it was the Elite Eight. And then,
Oklahoma.
yes, they got killed by Oklahoma. But then,
Yeah.
do you remember Oklahoma the next game playing Villanova? It was
Yes.
terrible.
It was awful.
It was a blowout. And so, I'm really hoping that's not the case and we get a really good game. But we have seen this late into the tournament, teams just get killed. And so,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and decimated. Like they don't even make a rally. Like I
Hmm.
mean, they'll make a short run, but it's basically game over.
Yeah. And so it's all about how much tread's still on the tires this point in the tournament. And like you said, thinking about how there used to be like, or, obviously there used to be 52 teams. Now there's 64, right? Or 68.
Yeah, 68 now.
Okay, 68.
64. Yeah,
And then the first,
64 was in it was put into place in 85 was 64 and then 68 in 2011.
you know it, man. You know it. So, yeah, it's just, you have to be able to prepare at such a quick pace in order to, you don't even obviously, as the teams are dwindling down, as they're having, days to prepare. But in order to get here in the first place, teams are having to not only not know who they could be playing, right, the next day or the day after. The preparation's super impressive um in the NCAA tournament with just how quickly um the first round, the second round are. So,
Yeah.
um but no, like we said, we're hoping for a close game, but I don't know. Do you think it's going to get out of hand early?
Yeah, it's going to get out of hand early. I can't see. I mean, maybe a small run, maybe late, but it's going to be too late. Like it's going to be like 20, 25 point lead with like less than maybe 7 or 8 minutes left. And it's just they're so dominant. That's the one thing. It's just I don't see Alabama making it close. I feel like UConn's just unstoppable.
Mhm. So yeah, and then you had NC State. What do you think? Do you think how the flow of that game would be? Yeah.
Like terms of like key plays.
How do you think that game's gonna go?
I think it's gonna start off with Purdue having the early momentum, having the lead, feeding Edie, Jones, Smith, all those big guy, point guard.
Hmm.
But then Kevin Geets, the head coach, is going to come up with some great plays for O'Connell, Burns, Horn, Marcel, Middlebrooks, all those guys, and they're just going to go right at them. Just take what they give you. And that's the success that NC State has had in this Cinderella run. They take what they give and they end up putting it back on the scoreboard. And they're just a great team. I love the way they play.
Yeah, like you said, it's just attacking. Edie does a pretty good job at knowing how to. I mean, he gets away with a lot, but also he knows how to not foul. I think he does a
Yeah,
pretty good job at that. But that's also partially because he's not aggressive really in the paint. And so teams have
right.
found a little bit of success with the pull-up game. Gonzaga had some, and then, but so it's all about, if you're to say, if there's such, being such an attacking team, if you get a guy like Edie in foul trouble, um, oh boy, like it's a whole new game. So that
Yeah.
could be interesting. Foul trouble. So
Being well disciplined and understanding what's going on the floor. And Geets has done an incredible job. He came from Clemson, and he's brought in this philosophy in the system, and it's just he goes right at people. He attacks, and they love to isolate and just get everything moving from the perimeter down low, feeding Burns, feeding Horn. We'll see
Mhm.
that. I think Edie will get into foul trouble late, not early, but late. He'll have at least 3 to 4 fouls.
So yeah, it looks like we're going to be hopefully getting, at least with our predictions, a Iowa versus South Carolina women's
Yep.
matchup. And then on the men's side, Dan, we're hopefully going to get an NC State versus UConn matchup.
Yeah, I'm riding with that one.
So yeah, hopefully we're definitely going to get another episode out before the national championship once the Final Four is over.
Yep.
So we'll have to react to whatever the matchups are and then give our predictions. But I feel like we covered a lot as far as what's what we think or and what we expect to happen. Um, is there any final things you wanted to say about just how terrific a month of basketball it's been?
I love this time of year. And I've
Mhm.
been a March Madness diehard ever since I was a little kid. And my grandpa and I we exchanged phone calls because he was in Florida at the
Mhm.
time, wintering.
Right.
And I'd be on the phone with him 45 minutes to an hour,
Hmm.
because he'd fill out his picks. He would want to know what a potential upset would look like, what this team looked like. I mean, wherever it was and wherever the place was, the neutral sites, where the Final Four and the championship was going to be. And so we would talk for 45 minutes to an hour, and he would listen to me, and I would give him everything. And he he true to his words. He was like, this guy knows what's going on. He's all in. He's locked in, and I've been locked in for on March Madness since I was little. And it's great. It's a great tournament. I just love it. It's amazing.
Like you said, man, you're always locked in. And also, just from a casual fan perspective, it's so easy to get into with, making brackets, having fun, having bracket
Yeah,
pools like Daniel Duncan bracket pool. Um,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so, yeah, it's a terrific month, and we're glad that we've been here to be able to talk about it. So, yeah, that's been another episode. Hopefully we should be getting another one out post Final Four games, Dan.
yeah.
Um,
We'll get another one out. One shining moment, greatest song ever to
but
end the
yeah,
tournament.
that's been a nightcap episode from us, Dan. We'll see you guys later.
We'll see you.